Mr. Minister, thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss with you. One of my first questions is what is the Hungary position about Russian invasion in Ukraine? I noticed that Prime Minister Orban spoke about peace precisely in these times when Ukraine is trying a counter-offensive to recover their territories, and also what you can tell about us, the European Union sanctions policy against Russia.
Well, Hungary condemns the war. Hungary condemns the attack on territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. That goes without a doubt. In the meantime, we are committed to urge for peace. You know, we are a neighboring country, just like you are. So if there's a war in your neighborhood that puts certain security challenges on you yourself as well, we are very concerned about the possible escalation of the war. So therefore, we urge all members of the international community to avoid to make any kind of steps which might come together with an increased risk of escalation. On the other hand, we are a nation, members of which are dying in this war. So you might know that there's a big Hungarian community, around 150,000 people living in Ukraine. And since their members, I mean the members of this community are Ukrainian citizens, they are mobilized to the Ukrainian army, and they are being deployed at the front line, and unfortunately they die. So our number one issue now, and we wish it would be the number one issue of the international community, to save lives, to avoid further casualties. And to avoid further casualties, to save lives, the only way to that is peace. So we have been advocating for peace from the 24th of February, so it's nothing new. And we hope that once a ceasefire can be made, followed by peace talks, ending up in a long-term and sustainable peace deal.
What about the reluctance of Hungary to European Union political sanctions against Russia?
Look, when it comes to the sanctions, we would like to stay with both feet on the ground, to be pragmatic enough, realistic, and to see the outcome of the sanctions. Because if you put sanctions on someone, then you expect that the negative impacts of the sanctions are bigger and more serious on the one who is targeted than on you yourself who have introduced the sanctions. Now what we see, if we don't look at it politically or ideologically, but practically, then these sanctions are hurting the European economies much more than the Russian economy. I was there when we negotiated the first package of sanctions. And then the argumentation in favor of the package was that sanctions should push Russia on its knees. Therefore, Russia cannot continue the war. And now there are 10 packages in place. And what's the outcome? The war has been more brutal than ever before. And the Russian economy is definitely not on its knees. But in the meantime, European economies suffer a lot. I mean, here in Moldova, you had 30% plus inflation. In Hungary, we have 20% plus inflation. Our national energy bill has increased from 7 billion euros to 17 billion euros within just 1 year. Food prices are skyrocketing. Fuel price has increased a lot. So we all pay the price of the sanction policy and of the war as well. But these sanctions have not brought us closer to the solution. And now we are discussing the 11th package, totally unnecessary. It will not have any kind of impact on Russia in order to stop the war. So we think we should rather concentrate on negotiations, on talks, which would bring us closer to peace and which would cause less damages to our own economies.
I want to ask you about in Chisinau, the Wizz Air company generated suspicion. Do they are leaving that it will be like a political decision? What is the truth in the end? Some people blame the expensive insurance here in the insurance because of the era, but others say that it is like a political pro-Russian decision. And there are also Hungarian companies that are accused about Russian sympathy, like OTP Bank.
Yeah, when it comes to Wizz Air, you know, it's a privately owned company. It has nothing to do with the state. And knowing the owner, you can be sure that whatever we would like to impose on him would definitely not comply with that because of political reasons. So this is a private company with a private decision-making procedure. We regret a lot the decision of Wizz Air because it has basically eliminated the direct air connection between Chisinau and Budapest. So we wish Wizz Air comes back. I have contacted their CEO. I made it clear to them that our national interest would be Wizz Air returning to the Moldovan market. I have discussed this issue with the Prime Minister as well, of yours. I have promised to him that I do my best in order to set up a discussion between them personally to see what kind of other guarantees or expectations Wizz Air would like to be fulfilled in order to come back. But believe me, it had nothing to do with the Hungarian state. It had nothing to do with any political decision-making procedure. That's a privately owned company, private decision-making. Our interest would be them to return. Now, OTP Bank, you know, OTP is the biggest Hungarian bank and the third biggest here in Moldova, by the way. They have been accused absolutely falsely by the Ukrainian authorities. So those accusations which are being put forward against them are just simply not true. And we consider it as a very hostile step on behalf of the Ukrainian authorities, putting OTP on a blacklist basically, because you know, Hungary has been supporting Ukraine in many ways financially. We are part of the program in the framework of which 18 billion euros are being granted to Ukraine on behalf of the European Union member states. We are paying, you know, for the weapon deliveries by other countries in the framework of the European Peace Facility, so or European Peace Framework. So we simply consider this decision of the Ukrainians as outrageous and scandalous, and we do hope that they will withdraw it, because once again, those accusations which have been put forward against OTP are absolutely false.
Another question. Hungary's reluctance is related to those leaks of information about the Druzhba pipeline that can operate until the end of the year and on which Hungarian industry depends. But Ukraine would have put pressure by a possible detonation of a pipeline that brings Russian oil to Central Europe.
Look, when it comes to energy deliveries, we should look at them as physical issue and not as ideological, because with ideology you cannot heat the houses and the flats. With ideology you cannot run the economy, the industry. You need energy. And physically speaking, if the oil deliveries from Russia are being cut, then physically it's impossible to supply Hungary, Slovakia and Czech Republic, who are dependent on the southern stream of the Druzhba pipeline. So the only alternative pipeline coming from the Adriatic Sea through Croatia has a much smaller capacity than it would be necessary to supply Hungary and Slovakia and partly Czech Republic. So whoever threatens with attacking critical energy infrastructure is basically attacking our sovereignty, because the issue of the safety of supply of energy is an issue of national security and the issue of sovereignty. You in Moldova know that very well, since you had to make very serious steps in order to diversify your energy deliveries. We are making serious steps as well, but physically speaking, we cannot get rid of the Russian sources. So if the Russian sources are being cut from Hungary, the supply of the country with energy sources, physically, it's impossible.
And the last question, the Republic of Moldova has a strategic partnership with Hungary, but I insist on this question between the tense between Budapest and Kiev, because Republic of Moldova depends on the outcome of the war. But what is the message of the Hungarian government in the context of a summit political community Europe that will be held here in Moldova on the 1st of June? And we have a few integration steps to follow up until the end of the year. Will you support the opening negotiations for Republic of Moldova?
Yes, of course.
Mr. Minister, the Republic of Moldova has a strategic partnership with Hungary, but I insist on these questions between the tense between Budapest and Kiev, and the Republic of Moldova depends on the outcome of this war. What is the message of Hungary government in the context of summit political European community that will be held here in the Republic of Moldova on the 1st of June? And we have only a few steps to make up until of the end of the year. Will Hungary support us into opening the negotiations for Republic of Moldova?
Well, absolutely. Hungary has been always supportive towards the EU integration path of the Republic of Moldova. We do consider the enlargement very important from the perspective of the European Union, especially under the current geopolitical environment. So definitely, as we have supported Republic of Moldova so far in its integration efforts to European Union, we will continue to do so. And we really cherish the steps you have made. We have supported the candidate status to be given as well, and I assured your foreign minister that in any issue, when it comes to EU accession, you can count on the support of the Hungarian government. And I think the current geopolitical circumstances underline the importance of external partnerships of the European Union. Therefore, we are happy that you have not only been active part of the Eastern Partnership Program, but now you are a candidate country as well. And I hope that the integration process will be as quick and as successful as it is just possible.
And the message by the summit European political community?
Well, actually, if Moldova was not on the right track, I'm pretty sure you would not have been given the opportunity to host the EPC summit. So the fact that the EPC summit will take place here in Moldova shows that you are on the right track when it comes to the EU integration.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.